foundational, disciplined play. It seemed that Skyfoxes screwed their heads on facing forward, and Phase 2 were the ones who gave them opportunity after opportunity to find those early picks. And this is another map where that high ground's really going to come into play. Kings Row and Skyfoxes are going to be situated on the second story to start things off as Phase 2 look to pressure the point, as you are wont to do, and set up a little bit of just a shooting gallery, but Skyfoxes are going to have a massive range advantage.
The nice halt going the other way? Nope, doesn't really matter. His attitude is going to find another pick. It's already a 6-4 base. You should try again. And to kind of keep going off of what we were saying earlier, clean play doesn't necessarily mean eye-catching play, right? It doesn't mean fancy play all the time. You don't have to be fancy to win, right? But you do have to play cleanly to win. And so if I'm going to choose, if I want a team that is just super, super fun to watch, but might not perform as well, or a clean team that is going to be consistent while not flashy in the playoffs, you want that clean and consistent team, because that's what's going to take you over the edge and potentially into the semifinals and finals as we move on through the bracket. Skyfoxes already have a Dragon Strike. That's going to be tough for Phase 2 to walk into. Nishik with the Coalescence, so could be a really great way to do it. We got the 2 walls up. We're calling that the ice cream sandwich so far. Skyfoxes also have the Immortality Field up. They've got to deal with that. Phase 2 have to deal with the Immortality Field. The Coalescence is a great way to do that. They do just that as A10 does find the pick onto the Mei as well. There's a little bit of window shopping in the opposing Baptiste Amplification Matrix, but it's not going to matter. That ultimate as Skyfox is falling by the wayside. Oh, not long, as my dramatic pause allows them enough time to try to come back into this fight. 3 kills for Skyfoxes, but it still might not be enough for them. 2 members of Phase 2 remain, and they also have more friendly spawns being on the offensive side. That should still be a Phase 2 hold, but now it's a matter of how much time is going to be on the clock.
One Chinese scientist versus one 4-legged metal horse and a Korean girl. Looks like Phase 2 are going to triumph in the end. This man advantage was too great, and this is always going to be the catch-22 when you're running a Widow, running a Hanzo, and on the other side of the aisle, running close range damage like a Reaper. When you're at range, you're doing great. When you're at melee, you're doing awful, and I'll let you guys figure out which side is which, but there are very clear win conditions even when all the other tanks and supports seem so similar between the playstyles of Skyfoxes and Phase 2, so it's all about knowing where you're going to be getting the most value.
Self-destruct is going to YOLO out into the back line like it's 2016 all over again, as Pika can find 2 kills. He's one of the best at those naked bombs flying into the back line. Other teams not very prepared for it because you haven't really seen bombs like that in a very long time. When you saw self-destruct, it was always with the Graviton Surge earlier. Then in the middle of the regular season this season, teams either just dropped the Diva or started throwing those bombs out at more random times to try to catch them off guard. And this time, 2 kills is what they got out of it.
Phase 2 is going to bomb Skyfoxes so hard, they bomb Hoon all the way back to his Metathena days. He's going to pick up the Diva now, try and face off against Pika, at least give Skyfoxes a bit more damage mitigation, but it's not going to be doing much against Nishik's Coalescence, hosing everybody down.
Oh, it's not going to be enough, though. The hose dried up. The blizzard comes through. A bunch of people are going to be taking some time in the Arctic. Who's going to get you next? Who are you? And the rest of the team is going to fall victim to A10's Death Blossom. That was beautiful. The lull that the blizzard gets can kind of lull you into a false confidence of, oh, maybe nothing's going to happen because nothing has happened just yet. We're already not frozen. But all of a sudden, A10 comes through with the Death Blossom, gets 4 or 5 kills.
Who would blow both Death Blossom and Blizzard at the same time just to win a single fight? Well, Phase 2, because a 1 fight is a 1 fight, my friend. And Skyfoxes themselves don't really have any ultimates. Wall is going to come up, but no obfuscation here. Everybody's still just standing right behind it.
The Reaper's on the payload, trying to cause some discord into the back lane. He's going to rejoin his team, unable to find the pick, but Salt Shaker will fall by the wayside. His attitude does keep Phase 2 from keeping their momentum on it. The payload street phase was very quick for Phase 2. This is where Skyfox need to prop up their defense, and they're doing just that. Attitude is frozen, but not for long. It's not going to be a cold embrace for him. It's just going to be some embrace of death for A10.
It's really the battle of the double A's here, Attitude and A10, oftentimes matching each other, not just in terms of production, but the types of heroes that they're playing and trying to do the same things for their opposing teams. Right now, both so close to Death Blossom. Who's going to pop it first? Skyfoxes have the positional advantage, and A10 actually still doesn't yet quite have that ult.
Coalition starts ripping through Skyfoxes. Is it going to be enough? Attitude using that Death Blossom, not as good as A10's earlier on, but the takes and the rest of phase 2 so low. It did just enough for the Coalescence to finish them off as Skyfoxes rebuff phase 2 once more.
Fluttering them up, like you like to say, Boop. And sometimes you just need that. You soften the tanks with your Death Blossom and then finish them off with Coalescence.
I don't think people expected that Death Blossom, especially Skyfox, because he is able to take Hardcard down, and this is how you take Skyfoxes down. Take them out of that dance. We used to say this about GOATs all the time. You get used to a certain type of play, and then you get complacent. And what phase 2 was able to do with A10 was take them out of that complacency. They saw it, they took advantage of it, and now they're turning the corner.
Exactly. It was a very long extension from Skyfoxes, and they got punished, but phase 2 have to maintain this momentum. Wario has the Blizzard at the ready. Phase 2 need to be ready to back up at a moment's notice, but no more Blizzard! A10 takes Who Are You out of this game!
And he is on a hot streak. For instance, self-destruct comes through. It's going to be pushed a little further. Now the sound barrier for phase 2 does not hit Fox. He's going to have to find his healing his own way. That cryo is going to be how you do it. Coalescence is going to help as well. A10 could potentially get another Death Blossom, but he's going to be frozen in this Blizzard, and Karkar is going to be able to take him out. There's still a minute and 48 seconds left, but the Blizzard comes through right before Attitude uses the Death Blossom. That Blizzard does not come. If he knew the Death Blossom was online, but it does, they lose the ult, and now they've got a minute and a half to get it back as Lep gets staggered out.
Oh, 2 supports versus the world. So close. And in each moment you think, maybe? But alas, phase 2 do have to go back to the drawing board. They expended absolutely everything that they had, but they are going to come back into a Supercharger and a Death Blossom soon. But Skyfoxes, now that they know they can't get complacent against phase 2, they might just pop this Coalescence preemptively, see what they can find.
Just in the nick of a time. A10, though, potentially getting Death Blossom just in the nick of time as well. It feels like these Reapers either take forever to get these Death Blossoms or get them super quickly. They do finally have the Supercharger is there as well. Sound Barrier should deplete here very soon. The Death Blossom will be coming very shortly. There it is. 2 kills immediately for A10 as Skyfoxes lose all but one member. That's going to be the push for phase 2 as they get all 3 points on King's Row. Skyfoxes need to match that coming up. Let's see what phase 2 can do on defense. This is a team that has seriously really struggled on defense in the past. And
seriously.
While they have 45 seconds in the time at bank, they've been able to complete a lot of maps with under a minute while giving their opponents a little bit more time to work with. And that could be the difference between winning a map and losing it for phase 2. It has been in the past. Skyfoxes now on the attacking side. They know where the bar is. They know what they're trying to beat. Let's see if they're going to be able to do it.
That's the big question, Boopy. Phase 2, we haven't seen some of the same unforced errors that we were worried about. And Control, Nishik, and Lep both have been a lot more conservative with their support ultimates. Always a really good sign. And the teamwork from phase 2 coming back into play. Sox, you saw him on that third point, desperately spraying down Hoon's Diva, trying to freeze her out of the way so that A10 would have a clear field to Death Blossom. It came together for them in the very last seconds, and that's what they're going to need. They need to keep this going on their own defense, because Skyfoxes are going to be, pretty upset that they didn't manage to hold phase 2 to overtime. They let him finish with 45 seconds. So
you're not saying Clone Man is going to stay on at this Winston, especially since we've been playing Orisa for the rest of the game. This is probably just to get that high ground advantage. Oh, look at them. Jinx, you owe me a coat. Jump in at the same time. It's good to get a little bit of across the line camaraderie, right?
Exactly. Extend the hand.
We're all here in this together. This is all for Tier 2 Overwatch.
Yes.
And now I'm going to try to kill you once the gates open. As Skyfoxes
with love
do switch off of the Winston onto the Orisa. That was to try to get vision onto the point. Nishik on the Ana. This is actually a character that he's played very well on before. We haven't seen a ton of it today. A10 finds that initial take. Always good when it's on your counterpart on the other side. 5v4 now for phase 2. This could be good for them. Nice sleep onto Hoon as well. This is a soft reset for Skyfoxes at the least.
It should be. Oh, especially now, though, that the May is
full reset.
Yeah, not just soft. That is a rocky rocky reset. Ooh, can't get too greedy though. A10 is a big part of this team. FaZe 2 are going to back up like the quickness. Nishik's early opening anti onto Clone Man meant that the Orisa could not take any more space, had to back up right away. And so hopefully he can land another one. He's 50% up to that nano boost, but A10's going to beat him there.
Both walls, the cooldown is gone, and just like Ghost, these two team comps are so cooldown dependent. The halt, the hook, the wall, and then the ultimates. Skyfox is already losing attitude, but the DMEC is definitely going to help their cause here on the point. A10 trying to stay alive. He's getting slowed because of that endothermic blast where he's able to get back to his team. The Orisa shield is going to be taken down. The walls are going to mean that A10 is going to have to do a little bit of parkour to get into the back line, and he's able to do it 2 for 1. It's kind of like a Pharaoh ultimate, right? You need to take at least 2 members down, but Skyfox is still coming back. They're not going to try to take the point right here, right now, especially since Food is going to be frozen, but the man's going to block his own D.Va into the gallery. Skyfoxes could come back and try to take this point, even though Food is frozen. You don't see fights in here very often, friends.
No, indeed, and actually they're going to lose their honor right away. Pika's bomb gets absolutely nothing, and FaZe 2, just they don't have that artist touch of knowing when enough is enough. It was already enough. Did not need to continue to press their advantage, and even if Skyfoxes had burst onto the point, you can always fall behind that archway, fall into the hotel, keep yourself safe, and I think just quite a bit of over-greediness from FaZe 2's part means that they give up this point a lot earlier than they needed to.
They're living and dying by A10's Reaper right now, and I actually like the game plan, because when it works, they're really winning, and they tend to win hard, but when it's not, they find themselves at an immense ultimate disadvantage. Street space should be pretty quick for Skyfox, looking at everything that they have. The payload is going to over. Remember, this is the slowest start to a payload on these hybrid maps.
Yeah, and that's a really early supercharger as well. Skyfoxes, they weren't even backing up to give space. They literally, the cart was not there.
Self-destruct isn't going to be able to find anyone. Attitude, though, is going to find Ejik. The defense major keeps him alive. He's going to be able to finish off that Death Blossom, and Skyfox will finish off the rest of FaZe 2. They do use 4 of those ultimates, 2 remaining for them, but FaZe 2 still lagging behind.
Still lagging behind, but Nishik's Nano could help push A10 over the brink, get him that Death Blossom right now. He's just ahead of Attitude in terms of that ultimate, and it's not just that though, you also have to look at the Blizzard race. Sox 78% to that ult could give FaZe 2 a reprieve right before point B, as long as Hoon doesn't gobble it up. That's going to be the difficult thing, is to isolate the D.Va before you toss either the Death Blossom or the Blizzard.
The halt gets them over the shield, but they're unable to combo the hook. Fox is going to have to use that cryo very early. Sound barrier comes out for Skyfoxes. They will maintain their advantage in this fight. Like we said before, Street Phase should be coming this easily for them, as they brought a 5 ultimate advantage into this portion of King's Row. This is where FaZe 2 needs to find that defense. And remember, we also said that FaZe 2, their defense is one of the major reasons why they've lost some of these series in the past. And the difference between these two teams, right? 4 minutes and 10 seconds in the bank for Skyfoxes to finish the third part of King's Row.
It's a pretty massive one, especially considering that they need to get Coalescence and Death Blossom out from Skyfoxes without dying themselves. We might just see an early bomb from Pika. You know the wall is gone. You could launch it over the Orisa shield.
Sound barrier to keep them up alive long enough. The Blizzard's going to try to stop Attitude, and he's going to get booped off. No, does he able to teleport? No, he does not. Nice heads up play from him, though. At least he tried. He didn't just accept death. Skyfoxes will be rebuffed. FaZe 2 finally finding a fight that they liked. They took it. They take Skyfoxes out, but they still have 3.5 minutes remaining.
Still 3.5 minutes. They got almost 3 ultimates. That's an ultimate a minute. But A10 has been extremely fruitful with this Death Blossom in the past, and especially extra boosted with Salt Shaker's Supercharger. It could be all over for Skyfoxes. Lastro and Karkar nowhere near either of those support ultimates.
Supercharger from Salt Shaker comes out. Not going to be protected, though. It was protected by Skyfox's own wall. The Blizzard's going to miss the Supercharger for the time being. It does deplete as Flowman takes it down. Still no kills done both ways until I spoke too soon. Karkar and Attitude are going to find 2 for Skyfoxes. FaZe 2 invested ultimates into that fight, and they still lost. Skyfoxes were at a little bit of a disadvantage, but coming into these next fights, they're going to have both support ultimates. They're going to have Supercharger. They're very close to that Death Blossom. They already had Self-Destruct. The end game scenario here for FaZe 2 on King's Row, in my opinion, is get a good ult from A10 and use a little bit of luck as well.
Yeah, you are going to need a little bit of a blessing from Lady Luck here. Skyfoxes have almost every advantage in the book. Ooh, A10 really tempted fate right there.
Didn't quite know the other Reaper was up there. They potentially can match their death losses. The Attitude's going to have it. Blizzard from a Sox goes through. He's going to keep the payload safe for now as A10 finds that pick onto the Mei. 6v5 now, 6v4 now for Phase 2. A10 can continue asserting his dominance onto Skyfoxes for the time being. Phase 2 to rebuff them. That pick was all that they needed. That's at least 30 seconds, 30 to 45 seconds off of the clock. The 2-minute, we have entered the 2-minute warning for Skyfoxes.
Yeah, that was actually not a terrible decision for Skyfoxes to just choose to lose that fight, because the alternative is investing Karkar's sound barrier. This isn't the GOAT stage where you have both trance and sound barrier. You need to use them both very judiciously. Oh no, the boop! Oh,
pulling a Bijou. This time the left wasn't a this time around. Bijou got a boot from that same place, but Pika gonna eat the Blizzard on Skyfox's side. That's not going to be the only ult that they use. The Skyfoxes are going to wipe Phase 2. A10, the only one alive for the time being. Will they even be able to contest?
He is going to be able to Wraith Walk onto it, but he's not going to be lasting for too much longer. He decides to let the Death Blossom fly.
He was actually able to get a lot of that ult out before the Sound Barrier came through. Saltmaker gets the pick. Self-destruct doesn't do anything, and another Blizzard from a Sox is going to take Clone Man out, and Skyfoxes lose their best opportunity to finish King's Row. There is now a win condition for Phase 2. It's use the coalescence to push Skyfoxes away, let them take damage as they come to the payload.
Exactly, and as I was saying earlier, they didn't want to just invest Karkar's Sound Barrier because these end game fights are so hard to win that you need every resource possible. But as it stands, they have reset that ultimate down to 25% and A10's on the Bastion. This is when Surprise will really hurt.
He was not confident about that bash. He almost changed. You saw it in his movement a couple times. I don't like that. You got to feel confident in these situations. A10, whenever he's not been on Reaper or Hanzo, they've just lost. Coalescence is going to use exactly like we said it would be. It's going to combine with the Bastion damage, but someone needs to get onto the cart. Attitude fighting that 6v5 for Skyfoxes. A10 going to be blocked out by that wall. The Moira is going to be taken very low. Salt Shaker's going to be low as well. Pika, though, going to get the kill. This match is not really doing anything. He is able to get to his goal. He's going to turn into a tank, and he's going to be able to tank the rest of Skyfoxes. You've got to take him down. Entering the bubble, he's going to try to take that Orisa down. So far, a lot of damage, but not a lot of kills. Another Blizzard from Sox. Dear Lord, Sox. That's a lot of cold coming from you. Cold snap for Skyfoxes as Phase 2 on the brink of going up 2-1 against Skyfoxes. They had over 4 minutes remaining to capture the last point on King's Row. Phase 2 able to rebuff. Skyfoxes unable to capture that last point. We've been talking a lot about A10, and we said it at the exact same time. Another Blizzard. That was his third Blizzard in 3 fights. That's what you call production, my friend.
Yeah, Phase 2 really rocked and socked him with that Mei. And we were like, oh, A10, the Bastion might not work out. And honestly, it wasn't doing a ton. We didn't see a lot of confirmed kills, but what he did was very similar to what he would do as a Reaper. Soften them up so the melee and mid-range heroes actually on the cart can finish off those kills. And at the very end, you got a win condition as well. Protect him while he's in tank mode so he can burst the attackers down. And couldn't ask for a better timed sound barrier from Lep as well to keep him whole, hale, and healthy. And Skyfoxes missing the goal line by just that much. Sucks, man.
At least they didn't see that.
It's not flashy,
right?
But it's good.
I think they lost because Phase 2 got production out of Sox. They knew their endgame scenarios, and they got a little bit of luck as well. And I think we can go back to when A10 got a pick onto Huaryu's Mei at the very last part, like when there was like a minute, 2 minutes remaining, and Skyfoxes still had an ultimate advantage. He pushed them all the way back. And remember, I said he was asserting his dominance, pushing them back to spawn. And
thumping his chest like a silverback.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what happened. A10 was forced to switch off the Bastion, onto the Bastion in the end because they needed something different, right? They needed to push them up. They needed for them to take a bunch of damage before they even came onto the payload. And in the meantime, while they're focusing on everyone else, right? Sox gets the Blizzard out of nowhere, the third one, and that's just something you don't expect, right? These pros develop these ultimates very quickly, but to have one every single fight, that's the type of production you want for anyone on any team, right? You want that for your Moira, you want that potentially for your Reaper, you want it for your Sombra especially, right? Not everyone can do it. Sox did it here on King's Row.
Yes, Phase 2 definitely asserting their dominance over Skyfoxes, who are going to be feeling a little bit flummoxed here. Everything was going so well until it didn't. And this Blizzard here was actually a really great play because even though it didn't necessarily find a ton of kills outright, it zoned everybody away so that they could be isolated and picked off. I think one of the difficulties that Phase 2 was experiencing at times was running both the Mei and the Reaper like they did. They didn't necessarily have the ability to isolate anybody. As it stood with the Bastion, I mean, you don't really have a choice. You're just shooting at what's in front of you. And everybody else is kind of doing CC on the cart, setting up some, targets, hurting them into your line of sight. And I think that's one of the reasons that it worked really well. And also just trust. We knew that A10 didn't really want to play the Bastion, maybe, but somebody made a call for it, and they went with it. Everybody went with it.
There's also that point where A10 single-handedly stalled out the point, and he was by himself on the payload, right in front of their faces.
Facing death.
Presses Q, and he gets 3/4, 75% of the ultimate off. That's enough for his team to come back and actually take the payload back. That's absolutely ridiculous. And Skyfoxes, in these kind of like very intense situations, we talked about communication. That's when it gets the hardest. Seem to be having a hard time finishing out Phase 2. There were 99/99s on control, right? It hasn't been happening for Skyfoxes. They won Assault because they wrecked them, right? Yeah. It wasn't like, oh, it was very close the whole time. It was very handily in Skyfox's side. And these close games have not been friendly to Skyfoxes in the past either.
Yeah, you do also have to remember that quite a few of them are playing with ping, so that's also going to be another one of those small things that
you have to think it's weighing on you, right?
Yeah,
it's part of the weight.
You're going to have to be considering this whole time. And Phase 2 have gotten a bit of their mojo back. They look dejected on Volskaya. They allowed themselves to get picked off before they could find those team fights. And now they're going to be running something very similar once again. A10 on the Hanzo this time, but those same mistakes cannot happen because Phase 2 are one map away from taking the series against Skyfoxes, a phrase that would have seemed impossible even 3 weeks ago.
Is Phase 2 going to be able to do it in traditional sports? This is where the underdog starts faltering. It's when they get to that point, when they're so close to putting away a Serena Williams, when they're so close to putting away a Golden State. This is where experience really comes into play. This is not a moment that Phase 2 has ever been in before. They've been in trials playoffs. They haven't even made it through a lot of that, right? And we got a nice hook. Lastro going to find that pick onto the Hanzo as well. Like the A10's been playing every single map as well. This payload should be moving a little bit further. Phase 2 still taking casualties.
Yeah, at this point, I think you should die as quickly as possible. You're not going to find a ton of time because Skyfoxes just have such an overwhelming advantage, and you're going to be feeding a lot of ultimate charge. Karkar will already have Amp Matrix, Lastro will have Trance, but Phase 2 still have one more good defense because they chose to hold up so close. But they have to watch out for these ultimates. It may be a foregone conclusion. Nishik, though, is 20% away from Trance. That could change absolutely everything.
A10 is going to spot them out with some vision. The Immortality is going to escort them a little bit closer, and they're going to do a little bit of window shopping themselves. Are they going to be able to find any value out of it? Yes, they will. Is Cloman going to fall? The Immortality field where Skyfox is not coming out in a time, but the Dragon Strike is going to zone him out. The extra damage of that amplification nature. Blizzard now is going to freeze Pika and A10. They're going to bring this right back. Skyfox is running a numbers disadvantage just for a little while, but the Blizzard is all that they need. We're seeing the power of Mei right now.
No Lucio on either side, so you aren't getting out of that snowy quagmire. You have to take it. And Phase 2 had used Transcendence so early on. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to save Phase 2 against the burst damage from a Hanzo. Remember, it's 300 healing per second. So any kind of pointy object barreling its way towards your head is still going to land and potentially take you down.
You hear it, they're trying to team up for that special attack, as Skyfoxes do deal with that supercharger, so not a very special attack, it's going to be a regular attack, but I'm sure they still want to team up, as A10 drops down to 50 HP, going to be healed right back up, and the zoning that they're able to do on both sides is just immense. Look how much space both teams could create with their ultimates, but the space is being created for Skyfoxes. You create the most space when you get those kills, because there's a lot of space between the payload and spawn.
And now, even more vertical space as well. Attitude decides, I don't want to be up there. That was on purpose. But this is going to be a huge advantage for Skyfoxes. All of their DPS can take a position on the high ground, keep themselves largely safe from Phase 2. It's going to take a boost from Pika to get up in their faces.
Amplification Matrix comes out for Skyfoxes, and they're going to throw the Dragon Strike in front of it, I believe. I don't know if it got that extra damage, but it doesn't matter if it gets a kill. It's the same kind of thing. Lastro, though, going to be taken down. He's had a much more consistent game than he's had pretty much for the rest of the season, and that's a really big reason why I think Skyfoxes have been able to keep themselves in at these matches. But as of right now, here on Dorado, Skyfoxes, it's been a one-way ticket to 3 points. 4 minutes and 48 seconds is a ton of time to enter the last stage of Dorado, but last stage of Dorado also very hard for a lot of teams. I expect some of this time to deplete, but let's see if this momentum will continue on to the 3rd point.
Attitude, if he gets an early pick, he'll change everything. He needs to stay alive. He does get Trance online. He can't die before he uses it, however. Wants to save it for this Blizzard.
Oh, He's going to eat it, though, so that Blizzard's not going to be available, and that's been a big fight winner for Skyfox all throughout Dorado so far. All the various sundries from both of these teams are going to be taken down. No Mortality Field, no Supercharger, and no Reaper for Phase 2. This payload should be continuing on. Attitude finding himself so many kills, and they're fancy as well. I'll take clean and fancy any day. And so Phase 2, you're going to have to try to stop this a little while later, and they're only at 4 minutes in the time bank. Skyfoxes should be finishing Dorado. For me, it's a question of how much time they'll have remaining.
I don't know, bar a miracle or some kind of insane pick. I don't see this going any other way because Karkar has Amp Matrix and Phase 2 going to have to weather all of that damage plus the boost.
Amplification comes through. Fox is so low. He's definitely not producing like he was on the last match. He's going to be able to freeze the Roadhog. They're able to get that pick, but in the meantime, because the Orisa wasn't there to protect anyone else, the rest of the team falls. They have no more heals. They do get a couple more picks. Could be enough to delay a little while longer. They're not in... Oh, now they are, especially with the Attitude getting 2 more picks. They're in a critical state right now.
Dire states. It's not going to stop here. This payload is going to find its way into point B. The Skyfoxes have Blizzard to close everything out. He is going to launch the bomb.
Self-destruct, they have to find something. The Immortality Field blocks a lot of the damage, but Phase 2 is going to be coming back. Agent using that Death Block is going to get frozen with the defense matrix. A lot of that damage up, but Fox still freezing some people. Getting that Blizzard out, you want them to feel the cold snap of death. If you are Phase 2, and they're able to zone him out of the payload, and Skyfox is allowing Phase 2 to breathe just a little bit, because if you take stock of Ultimate, they don't really have a ton. They do have Dragon Strike, and that the way that they've been playing so far today, that might be all they need.
I eat my words. It is a Christmas here. It's a summer miracle. Phase 2 managed to hold with the help of Sox's Blizzard and A10's Death Block and buying so much space, but Skyfox is charging right back in.
Karkar got taken down very low, very quickly, but he's able to get the heals back up. Coalescence is going to zone a lot of the members of Skyfoxes who are taking shots on the high ground away from Sox. Maybe a little overconfident because of how well he played in the last game. Is dying quite a bit. Salt Shaker, though, does get the D-Mech, and that's a big deal for Phase 2.
6 HP and a dream. A10's Wraithwalk comes in just in time. Attitude's still alive, though, and he's on this high ground. And Phase 2 have to remember that he's here. He's potentially going to find that flank and pick off Nishik or Lep before Phase 2 even know it. But they seem to have taken Skyfoxes out of system, but they still have to contend with the reality of those ultimates.
Phase 2 doesn't have any at the moment. Self-destruct will be the only one they have for the beginning portion of the next engage. If Skyfoxes do decide to go through, they might be waiting for the Transcendence for Lastro to escort them onto the payload because they've been having a hard time taking back any of the space that they gained on their first push.
But if they wait much longer, A10's going to have Death Blossom yet again, and Pika's so good with these naked bombs.
A10 already got rid of the Immortality Field, self-destructed to the back line, lands right on top of the wall. Some good placement there, but no kills. You kind of want to get rewarded for that, though, as Phase 2 rewards their Diva's bomb with a team wipe anyway, and Skyfoxes have entered with 1 minute remaining. Phase 2 have ultimates, too. This is not going to be an easy take for Skyfoxes.
No, it's going to be very, very difficult. Lastro can use a Transcendence for one of Phase 2's ultimates, but they have Coalescence, Sound Barrier, Blossom, and Blizzard. So it's going to be a really, really tough sell for the Skyfoxes offense to just Phase 2, can't you just let us get on this cart? And Sox's Blizzard is going to be be the key here. Who are you? Likely not going to find it.
That halt's all you need sometimes. A Clone Man gonna fall by the wayside. They're gonna have to wait a little while longer, and at this point you make a decision. Do I attack, or do I take this loss as quickly as possible? They use the Transcendence, so if they try to re-engage, they're not going to have it. This is bad news for Skyfoxes. They had all the time in the world. I described this one-way ticket to 3 points. All of that time wasn't enough. Phase 2 are able to stop Skyfoxes. There's 10 seconds remaining. Maybe someone might be able to touch, but the chances of that happening are very low.
Very, very unlikely. Karkar and Team were the last to stagger. They're the fastest ones, and even if they get here, they have to face the Blizzard, so using that Death Blossom, totally fine from A10. And against all odds, Boop, Phase 2 managed to hold.
Things get dicey, and what happens?
Things get icy.
Oh, yeah, that as well. You're very good at rhyming. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Third grade must have been easy for you.
I was going to say kindergarten, but, I also barely made it past 3rd grade.
We all know that. And so phase 2 is, the thing about that is when things get into the nitty gritty, right? They seem to trust each other just a little bit more, right? Sox is going down. A10 knows what he has to do. Again, we've talked about this with a lot of other really good teams. Everyone has that specific job. When Skyfoxes get into the nitty gritty, right? They get to a point where, oh no, we might actually lose this point. It almost feels like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They start being like, oh, and this is all just hearsay, right? This is what I think based off of what we see, right?
Crafting here
exactly.
casters,
like everyone in esports, I think, is an armchair sports psychologist.
Oh yeah,
right?
Oh, yeah.
And so what Skyfoxes need to do is when things get dicey, they gotta calm down, right? They try to force things that they haven't been doing the whole time. The halts from Clone Man become less consistent. The damage coming in from Skyfox comes less consistent. And who are you on the mage? It's not outputting as much as Sox did on the last map, and that was so much value coming in from Sox. That who are you needs to try to match what he was able to do on the last map. At the beginning stages of this, I think who are you's was just a tad bit better, but it wasn't enough because you got to finish the map. Doesn't matter how much time you have when you don't finish.
Exactly, and I am an idiot and never realized there were other bells you could ding on the right side of Dorado. I've just had my eyes open. But you're totally right. And Skyfox's #1 priority now should be shutting Sox down. If you give this Mei any kind of latitude, he will find those blizzards. And it's going to come when you least expect it. Skyfoxes are not a team that seems to react very well versus Phase 2, who are like, are we all inning? Okay, we're going to all in. And they just all go for it.
It's reminiscent of our last game with second win in Montreal as well. Montreal having a hard time reacting quick enough to try to get the start. They were always on the back foot. It's like dancing with 2 left feet sometimes. You can dance, and maybe you can dance really well, but sometimes it's going to be harder than others. And Phase 2 really making it hard for Skyfox at the time of being. Phase 2, they know that they don't have to match the same kind of pace at the beginning stages of Dorado that Skyfox has put out because they stopped them from finishing the map. The Cryo's going to save the Mei just for a little while longer, but this Mei should fall here very soon. But no, the Immortality Field comes out. Who are you is still alive and beating Sox right now in terms of old charge.
But Coalescence is going to come up in just a few seconds, and that can change everything now that all the cooldowns have already been drawn. Attitude, the first one.
Amplification Matrix comes out in the meantime. This very quick for ultimates to come through. Who are you has the Blizzard and will not need it before some more casualties for Phase 2 come through. Phase 2 still not giving up though.
Phase 2 are trying to press their advantage here if nothing else for some ultimates from Skyfoxes, and they do. Lastro decides to pop the trance here, even though Skyfoxes are up in terms of numbers, and this kind of just goes to show how the tables have turned. Originally on Control, Phase 2 were the ones with supports with happy trigger fingers, never quite sure if that extra bit of burst is going to come and they're going to lose a tank. And now it's Skyfoxes who, even despite that man advantage, are like, you know what, better safe than sorry. And now this means that when Sox fires his Blizzard, he will not have to deal with trains.
Who are you does have a Blizzard himself, though, and this has been enough for a lot of these teams to find the picks that they need. A lot of these teams also have really good sustain. A10 needs to find a little bit of it. The Soundlayer is forced out to keep A10 alive. Dragon Strike is going to try to cut through some of those overseas as well.
Yeah, but A10 manages to find Lastro. No more one fight trance for you. Immortality Field done as well. Supercharger out, so all of the damage will be finding its face, especially now that D.Va is out of mech. Pika finishes things off with a great self-destruct, and Phase 2, despite using so many ults to win that fight, still have Death Blossom on hand as well as Coalescence, and that could give them a much-needed damage bump when Skyfoxes are still recovering, when they're not expecting for that to be coming their way.
cold, calm, and collected, if I like to say so myself, as
Yep.
Phase 2 have the Death Blossom. They've got the Coalesce. The Coalesce is a great way not just to pepper in some extra damage, but also keep A10 alive throughout the ultimate. He does fall into a little bit of what Pharah falls into. When you ult, you're just kind of a sitting duck. You need some enabling to stay alive. Yes, you get a little bit from the ultimate, but you're not going to get enough a lot of the time. It doesn't matter now because FaZe will not be using that Death Blossom until their next approach, as Skyfoxes were able to find 2 picks and push them off.
Oh, Lep just in the corner. I couldn't tell if he was just resigning himself to his fate or if he was actually trying to hide. And poor Attitude's like, yeah, no, dude, sorry, nah, we're gonna put you out of your misery.
Sometimes that's all you want, right? Phase 2 now is going to use that Coalescence. A10 could potentially drop that Death Blossom. He's going to be protected. Yes, he will. He only gets the Immortality field, though, as Lastro takes him down. 2 minutes and 57 seconds remain for Phase 2 to finish the drop.
Phase 2 getting a little bit sloppy here, getting frustrated as they're stopped up at the archway. We're not seeing those same things that we praised on the third point defense, where we freeze the D.Va before we throw, Death Blossom. It would have been great to try and pressure Skyfoxes, force the Immortality field out, then go in with Death Blossom, because as it is, it's already a very dicey proposition to be a Reaper against all of this high ground DPS.
A10, once again, trying to assert his option, actually takes the Transcendence away from the Lastro. It could be a one fight for Skyfoxes. Because of that, they are able to get a nice ultimate away from Phase 2.
Yeah, and Skyfox is actually going to double down again just to make sure that they can win this fight and pop down the Supercharger as well. And so I think it was actually a little bit of an overinvestment for Skyfoxes, but they've been winning these fights pretty handily, so not too bad. They still have Who Are You and Attitude's ults, and you can see how important this high ground is. Every time after the fight, Skyfoxes return to the ledge, and Phase 2 value that high ground so much that they sacrifice Pika and A10 essentially to try and take that away from Skyfoxes. It kind of worked, but because Reaper is at such a disadvantage, they're going to swap A10 to Hanzo.
Dragon Strike is really trying to cut down Phase 2, and they're going to invest the Coalescence. Is that enough healing? The Blizzard's going to give them a little bit of space to work with. You can stay in the Blizzard during its cooldown to try to work around the fact that they can't approach you while that is going on. Attitude, though, has been having himself Dorado. He's the big reason why Phase 2 has been struggling so much. They haven't been able to compete with him on the high ground or low ground or any ground so far. There's another Dragon Strike already online. I feel like he just used one about 10 seconds ago.
It seems like he has one every fight. It's a Hanzo who's Coalescence mid-air snipe, though, as A10's like, yo, I'm also playing Hanzo, okay? Not going to let the dragons fly now.
Another mid-air snipe for A10. He didn't get the kill, but he did make some contact, and all of a sudden, Phase 2 owned the payload. Skyfox are going to have to try one more time. They will have a Transcendence. That's going to be really good for the Dragon Strike coming up. Now, let's see if Sox is going to be able to perform like he did on our last map. He needs to get to this Blizzard, because I actually don't see them capturing this point unless they get that Blizzard online. They're only 30% away. They're going to give some take some space with those Dragon Strikes coming in from both sides. Pika's going to use that self-destruct, force the Transcendence out, and Skyfox is, I think, trying to learn exactly when to Transcendence, because there's no Graviton Surge to compete against. The melody is a little off right now, as they also give Phase 2 the point. Fox did not need the Blizzard because Skyfox did not touch the point, as they have a minute and 41 seconds to try to take Skyfox down and end their season.
Great play by Salt Shaker right there. Halts all of Skyfoxes who had put themselves in that corner to run away from Pika's bomb. He halts them right into Sox, who freezes them all, and A10 just destroys them from the high ground. Really good play. And Phase 2, again, just with one of these unsigned teams, if only we could find those moments every fight, they would be nigh unstoppable. Any team would be unstoppable. As it stands, they see their win condition right in front of them. Salt Shaker throws down to the Supercharger, Niji pulling them down.
Sox just making sure his endothermic blaster works. He's looking for a way for that Blizzard to make some noise as well. And the Dragon Strike's going to be eaten by Hood. So that's a cooldown that Phase 2, I think, absolutely needed to try to get around this corner, because Skyfoxes were able to do that the first time around. But now that the momentum has been taken away from Phase 2, especially with looking at those ult charges with 43 seconds left, I do not see how Phase 2 are able to complete this map. But again, Lady Luck has been on their side before.
Yeah, oh, poor Pika. That is so painful. But for Phase 2's efforts, they have drawn that Blizzard out. It was, in fact, dueling Blizzards matters between Sox and Who Are You. He actually gets Mech back and is only 9% away from Fox. So those two resources will be available for both sides. Skyfoxes also have Coalescence versus Lep's Sound Barrier. It's all up to these teams to see how much value they can get, because Phase 2 cannot leave this cart any longer.
10 seconds remaining for Phase 2. They only have a Sound Barrier that's going to have to be enough. Everyone does get the Overshield. Pika going to use the Self-Destruct into the back line. Only takes the Supercharger. Car just in the nick of time getting behind it. The shield of Self-Destruct on the other way. It's going to take Sox down. A10 and crew need to find some more picks. They need to make some space somehow. Right now, they're doing a good job on the payload. The heals are coming. The Death Blossom from Skyfox is not finding any casualties. This is allowing Sox to come back into the fight.
They need to sustain. Don't get too greedy here. Just sustain. Sox is not yet back. He's on the Tracer. He's about to be there in one moment. They draw the Amp Matrix out as well. They're about to get Supercharger left. So close to yet another Sound Barrier. He's racing Who Are You right now. If Blizzard comes out first, it's the end of the game for Skyfox in first Phase 2.
This is 6v6 once again. Sox trying to blink into the back line. The Coalescence is going to be taken onto Sox. That's a nice distraction that the Tracer is making. That's exactly what you want to see from the Tracer. This is becoming one of those moments potentially for Phase 2. They are still on the payload. They have the Sound Barrier. They're using the Supercharger. They got the Immortality Field away, and they got the pick onto Car. So Phase 2 have that 6v5. This could be the end of Skyfox this season. The Pulse Pump gets stuck onto the Mei. The Mei goes down. Phase 2, though, still suffering some damage, getting those casualties. Pika gets evac. A10, though, already through that Death Blossom. He's taking twice the team. Phase 2 will be entering our semifinals. He uses that Death Blossom. Phase 2, though, loses 3 members of their own. It was not enough, and the spawns for Skyfox will be coming back soon. How long can Phase 2 hold on?
Oh, they lose their Reaper, though. Sox, though, is still alive, but a single shot, one shot from Who Are You is going to kill them. Salt Shaker finally goes down. This poor Orisa put into retirement. Sox gets yet another stick. But that is going to be where the card stops. Skyfoxes somehow managed to bring this to a tie. We are going to a 5th map.
We are going to a 5th map, Phase 2. Man, that felt again like Lady Luck almost worked out for them again, because the way they were able to sustain on the payload and work through Skyfox's ultimates, that's some high-level stuff coming in from Phase 2.
Lep got 2 Sound Barriers. That's hard. He's not a Moira. He's not, it's on par with what Sox was doing with that Mei. And I think it's just, again, like you said, Boop, RNGesus a little bit on Sox's side that time. If Sox hadn't gone down and been forced onto Tracer, if he had stayed with Mei, could have been a different game. That Mei Blizzard so powerful, especially in end game scenarios where you have no more distance to give. You have no choice. You either eat it or you lose the part.
Said it. This is where the underdogs falter, right? When they're about to win, whenever they have match point, and Skyfoxes almost gave it up. Phase 2 got those picks, but what they needed to do was not die to Attitude's second Death Blossom. I think they're still focused on getting to that Death Blossom, and there were just some, and then that was able to get some kills onto Phase 2 themselves.
Exactly. That's kind of the name of the game. You're always giving up something to try and get something else, and right now it seems like they're caught in, a deadlock.
And that's exactly what you want to see in this stage of the game, right? It's 2-2 going into map 5, and this is going to be it for both of their seasons. Skyfoxes, Phase 2, potentially in the last game of their Overwatch Contender season. This is a game that, when you looked at the schedule, maybe this one might be competitive, but a lot of people still gave this to Skyfoxes. Phase 2 really punching upward right now. And again, Skyfoxes, while they have underachieved throughout a lot of this season, the fact that Attitude's been popping off like this, the fact that Hoon has got some good picks, the fact that Car is playing so well on this Batiste, Phase 2 are, I think, right on level with Skyfoxes right now in this game. But fatigue might come into play. And finally, too, we got to give Skyfoxes a little bit of credit. Things got a little dicey for them. They finally calmed down and were able to push Phase 2 away, because it was almost a repeat of King's Row. Yeah,
very, very, very close, as everything seemed like it was going Phase 2's way here. I mean, I personally at least was losing my mind, thinking that Phase 2 might have been able to bring stuff back, but Skyfox is working with, what RNGesus gave them, able to bring things back from the very brink. And we haven't been shouting out the support line of Skyfoxes that often, and you know, it has been a little unexpected that we haven't seen really pop-off performances from two names like Karkar and Lastro, right? But I think the fact that we haven't seen a lot of errors from them is also really big, because we saw that from phase 2 early on in the series, and it was one of the reasons why they struggled.
Last year had a couple interesting trances mixed in.
That's fair. He did have a couple.
It's not like
but...
it's not an all or nothing thing sometimes, right? It's at certain moments, if you take a magnifying glass and look at this minute of the game, right, you're going to see different kinds of people pop up. You're going to see different ultimates come through as important to you, right? But in the grand scheme of things, in terms of these supports and consistency, Lastro has not been as consistent as expected throughout the regular season. But here in the playoffs, you really want that to happen. Karkar is going to be on at the mercy. The supports for Skyfoxes can have potential to really be impactful against phase 2. And this time around, Skyfox is going to be running Farah. This is a comp that they haven't really run at all throughout the rest of this series. And I don't know how I feel about that. And phase 2 on the other side is actually going to be doing the same thing. Socks on the Hanzo, 8-10 on the McCree. That excites me.
It certainly is very exciting and going to give them a lot more point presence, especially, with those two picks, you basically don't have to worry as much anymore if you're Sox or A10, especially Sox since he's dead. But Who Are You had the opportunity to really swing things Skyfox's way early on with the fire, finding a concussion boop, finding an early, 2-rocket kill onto a squishy, but he was playing pretty conservatively, and that could be really good long term. But as it stands, Skyfoxes are going to he is going to be in the position of having to attack as a Pharah, and that's going to put him at a disadvantage against two DPS players. One of them hit scan, one of them projectile, but both equally eager to kill him.
You're seeing the McCree trying to take down the birds of prey in at this guy. That is that Pharmacy. Mercy's going to walk Farah on a leash the entire time, make sure that they've got extra damage. Sox, though, going to take down Attitude. And remember, folks, in our first map today on Nepal, phase 2 trounced Skyfox at times, right? And then the ultimate advantage went into Skyfox's realm. And so what happened was phase 2 would get 99-0, 80-0, right? And then Skyfox would come right back, even it up, and phase 2 would win the last fight. So far on this one, a lot of the same thing happening. Phase 2 already at 60%. Skyfox is making a little bit of a change because of the McCree. And now they're going to have a little bit of an advantage coming into the point. This is a great time for Skyfoxes to take down phase 2.
Pika got a really great hook on to Karkar to keep him from a res earlier, but he found himself lost in no man's land, and now his team is going to have to give up that ground that they fought so hard for, and this is a huge advantage for Skyfoxes. Even though they have swapped Who Are You onto the main now, anytime you can defend a point like this when you have an Orisa is going to be better than pushing into that same situation with your own.
And 5% might end up being the difference between phase 2 winning in one fight and having to fight again. You really want to get to 80%. That's what we like to call that one fight territory for the team that owns that 80%. But at 75, Skyfoxes, if they lose again, which might not happen, they might be able to clean up this round, will have 2 opportunities to potentially capture the point. Phase 2 now, using that Dragon Strike already. The Immortality Field has already been used. Salt Shaker, Nishik, and Lep have already been saved by it. Sound Barrier down for phase 2. They really want to try to take the point right here, right now. They've identified that Skyfoxes do not have the ultimates to try to defend. Self-destruct into the back line, and it does overtake that Supercharger. Sox takes down Attitude, and the way the Attitude's been playing, that's kind of what you need if you're phase 2. A lot of the damage will be depleted once he's gone, but what they didn't account for, I think, was the Mercy on the other side. It's high noon, and he's gonna take down the May. No wall in front of him, no cryo to keep him alive, and so Who Are You's gonna have to come back to the spot because Karkar already used that res. And now we're seeing why Orisa's so strong on this map specifically.
Karkar pops that Valkyrie, but Nishik is about to come into that amplification matrix, and while he's not going to be able to do anything about the obnoxious moth in the sky, they are going to be able to burn the ground troops down. Clone Man gone, and with that, all of that shielding, phase 2 push forward and cap the point.
Oh, it looks like Skyfox are going to try to return the favor right away. Phase 2 might be on the back foot here. They're going to have to react to what Skyfox has put towards them for the time being. Karkar used the Valkyrie a little earlier. Who Are You have the Blizzard. 8-10 already with a high noon, and it gets blocked. I believe that was a defensive big Skyfoxes in that moment in time. Phase 2 gonna lose the Diva as well. Skyfoxes did take that down. Fox, though, with that Dragon Strike, taking down the Ana in the meantime. This is still back and forth, Ham.
Yeah, Nishik, though, picks up Who Are You, and that is crucial. The Mei is so good at sustaining in the late game. A10 at 150 health, staying healthy, pumping in that damage. Skyfoxes have to keep everybody alive. It's going to be very difficult without Karkar on this Mercy. And phase 2, take Lighthouse, or well.
I know, we're excited here.
I'm so excited.
Right?
Yeah.
It's been a very fun game. It's definitely been the closest game that we've gotten today, and I think a lot of us are still thinking about that last push on Dorado, but that's going to be disrespectful to these teams because what we're seeing right now on Ilios is phase 2, and Skyfox is almost repeating exactly how Nepal went, right? We said it earlier. Phase 2 is able to get to that 80% threshold occasionally. This time with 75. Skyfoxes will get there and match, and then phase 2 will win the last fight. And that's exactly what we saw this time around as well. So if history repeats itself, we'll see phase 2 take the point early on here, keep it till about 60 to 80%, lose it against Skyfoxes, and then Skyfoxes would need to change history at that point and keep it. I think if Skyfoxes are able to grab the point first, it's going to be their round.
Could very, very well be, especially since phase 2 are repeating history with their double main tank look. So this is all impendent upon them taking this point first. If they don't take this point first, that Reinhardt is basically useless. But Who Are You getting stymied by this wall, taking a bit of damage?
Karkar, though, getting an environmental kill onto Fox. That means the Tiffany's going to have to wait. Nice rocket punch as well. And Skyfoxes are primed to take this initial point. Pika and Saltseeker, though, are going to have a lot of HP, and they were able to delay a while on Village when they ran this last time. We're actually seeing that happen again as both tanks able to survive for a very long time. It's very reminiscent of the quad tank that we used to see from way back in the day, especially with the Moira. Just now it's just the two tanks, and they're able to sustain for so long. Phase 2 still not giving up this point, but Who Are You on this Doomfist is taking some names. Skyfox should grab this, but they're working hard for it.
Yeah, they could not rest at all. Lastro forced to pop a Coalescence as well. Unnecessary, but with the way that phase 2 is playing, you never really know. So Skyfoxes are going to be down both the Supercharger and the Coalescence, but they're coming into Sound Barrier and Meteor Strike. Phase 2, they went for the gamble. They tried their darndest. It worked for a little bit, but in the end, they just lacked that damage. And maybe they were expecting another Mei. The tanks would have been really great against a Mei because you just pummel her once her abilities are gone, but Who Are You's on the Doomfist instead.
Yeah, this Diva's going to get DMAX very shortly, and Roman already taken down as well. The Duke is going to have to use the ultimate to try to take down who's on the high ground, but it's not going to happen. Basically now just need a mosey onto the point.
And they do indeed clean up the chaff first, then go in for the picking. There's one Lucio left, and Who Are You trying his darndest, but even a Who Are You Doomfist is going to fall against the might of a Reaper and Roadhog combined. Now this is when Skyfoxes might need to change things up. Who Are You is going to be extremely vulnerable to all of the CC that phase 2 are packing, and they're going to be looking for him. He is the one person that was really giving their tanks some trouble on this Doomfist, so he needs to stay very careful, not get ice picked, not get frozen, halted, or hooked.
If phase 2 use their ultimates correctly, they could potentially bring this to 70% before you even have to worry about giving up the point, or they're just going to use all of them at the same exact time.
Oh.
You're going to win that fight 9 times out of 10, but that is an investment from phase 2.
To be fair, they did draw some out from Skyfoxes as well. They're depleted besides Foon's self-destruct. And that's also going to be an extremely telegraphed ultimate as long as phase 2 are keeping their eyes open. So Who Are You needs to work some of his magic again. He can demolish the phase 2 backline, but he has had a hard time getting there with the rest of his team healthy and whole.
Skyfox's season is 45% away from being over. Self-destruct does not land. Who Are You now going into the back line? And Moira's going to shift away. The Reaper's going to fall. This Doomfist actually doing some work, but it's not been enough for Skyfox to try to get back onto the point. Now basically need to move onto the point. They need to delay here. They need to try to get to that 80% because Skyfox is becoming a little bit more powerful as we speak. They still haven't done it just yet. Some nice displacement onto Salt Shaker is going to force them onto the objective, but this Orisa, one of the slipperiest horses in all of the land, they do end up getting to 81%. We get a pause.
Oh, all right, everybody, unclench your sphincters. I was certainly holding my breath a little bit, but Skyfoxes doing their best, and this is as much as I've been saying, Doomfist is vulnerable to all of these abilities, but what he does that nobody else is able to accomplish on the same scale is disruption. Phase 2 are running a bunker. They want to be together in position, and you throw Doomfist in there, even if you don't die, you saw the way that he was forcing the backline away from the Orisa. Your Lucio is not doing anything if he's not close to you, and he was able to just isolate away phase 2, half of phase 2, and the rest of his team picked off the tanks. So this line of attack has been working really well for Skyfoxes, and something that they should, remember for any other time they come up against a same.
There might not be another time, though.
If
they lose this fight, then phase 2 are able to get the point back. It's at 82%, and then all they have to do is hold on until the end. And Skyfox is coming from behind again. They have not, outside of capturing this point first, they haven't really been ahead on any portion of control today. They really need to change their fortunes. And I think just the map type here, attitude on the Hanzo, just unable to do what he wants to do on that character. There just isn't as much line of sight for him. There's not as much freedom for him to use. And phase 2 still delaying right now, as we're at 87% to 41%. Now is when ultimates get very, very important. There's 3 for Skyfoxes, potentially 6. For phase 2, they're a little slower, but they're coming up on them.
Potentially 6, but since Pika is on this Roadhog, he has been very accurate with his hooks in the past. Could spell doom, especially for somebody who relies on his cooldowns like Who Are You, if he gets hooked out of system.
Supercharger comes down for Skyfoxes first. We're at 63% for them. The Fortify is going to try to help Salt Shaker stay alive. He still has his ultimate. Pika using that whole hog to make a little bit of space for his team, but the Coalescence is tearing phase 2 up right now, and so is Who Are You. The first Doomfist that we've seen, at least in the last 2 games today, is going to be an impactful one, as we're at 80% for Skyfoxes. Whoever wins the next fight will win the round.
They're going to take it all, win the quarterfinals. Phase 2, though, are well stocked. Skyfoxes, again, only has Karkar's Sound Barrier. They don't really have any offensive tools besides Who Are You's Meteor Strike.
They do have the self-destruct as well. Who Are You already taking down half health? They're able to get this pick. It's going to be huge, 28 HP, but the Dream is going to survive. Nishik, though, with the Coalescence kill. Self-destruct needs to find something, and it does. A Salt Shaker. The Command just needed a little bit more seasoning. 3 kills now for phase 2, but 2 in return. Who Are You is popping off, my friend. This is all on him. He needs to bring this back. Your strike is going to land right on top of phase 2. Salt Shaker also gets the D-Mech, and A10 takes down Who Are You. This should be a switch in ownership. 87% for phase 2. Conan is going to be the only person who can make it onto this point in a time. Phase 2 on the brink of a semi-final berth.
They are so close. Pika is so close to this bomb as well. You need zone, and Pika's got it, and he needs it since Sox used the Blizzard to win this point. Skyfoxes, everybody needs to be operating perfectly in order for this to go their way. That Hammond manages to live.
A10 also managing to live for the time at being with the 65 now for Skyfoxes. Lepto gets the environmental kill onto Clone Pika. The only ultimate that they can use also one, but it's a 4v4 now on the objective. Salt Shaker going to phase 2 ahead. This down barrier is going to potentially be the deal breaker for Skyfox unless Karkar is able to get the hit, and it looks like he might, and he dies before landing the beat. Skyfoxes lose out on the down barrier, and phase 2 are going to get themselves a berth into the semifinals, upsetting Skyfoxes. That's a huge upset in my opinion.
Massive.
Skyfox is going home. Their season is over. They had their eyes on the gauntlet, and the gauntlet is no more for Skyfoxes as phase 2 get themselves in the semifinal. At the beginning of the season, if someone said, hey guys, a semifinal team's going to be phase 2, I probably would not have believed them, but that just goes to show that this team is the most improved team that we've seen, at least throughout the season. I think X-Grunto is going to be the other one that we can talk about, but let's talk about phase 2 a little while longer, because what they were able to pull off today was something I believe not many people expected.
No, extremely difficult. Actually, in fact, though, half of the teams coming out from today, both of the teams that we casted actually unsigned, Second Wind and phase 2, cashing their ticket into the next round of playoffs. Well. Oh, and Triumph. I cannot forget our Triumph friends, although honestly, with Kevin Garnett, it feels like they're already fancy folks. But, regardless, everybody putting up such an impressive play, and especially phase 2. We just saw the inexperienced unsigned team falling apart in the last seconds of Dorado. Well, when they absolutely needed that focus fire to be there, Who Are You was wrecking them. They got it done. And that is not something every team can say. Everybody functioning so well together. And this just feels so bad to lose your sound barrier from a coalescence. Just
I mean, you're spamming
did not
that Q.
land.
You had to use it
Had
in
to use
that
it.
moment.
Had to
You
use
had
it.
to. There's no doubt about it. And let's go ahead and look at this bracket. So unfortunately, because they won today, they're going to be facing Atlanta Academy.
Congratulations.
Who a lot of people are actually saying is going to be even scarier on a 2-2-2, which is just nuts to me since they didn't lose a map during the regular season. But I could see how that's the case. That is going to be third Impact against Gladiators Legion. Third Impact is the ex-Grunto squad with a couple extra members. Two notable ones are going to be Apply on loan from Revival and Kalios as well.
Very
and
exciting.
I actually think those are some good upgrades. I'm intrigued as to who they're going to be playing because Apply and Wub are both good, like good starter potentials.
They're also good people.
They're
yes.
also good people, yes. And I'm really intrigued to see how they're going to be able to go against Gladiators Legion because Uprising Academy was the higher seed, but I think most people expected Legion to come into 2-2-2 roll lock much better.
Yeah.
That's